All right. Amazing. And then how do you fix it in? Amazing. Kuda. Well said, huh? Keep still. Okay, that's perfect. All right.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here today at Ramat Ora. My name is Rabbi Kupko, and we're very honored to have with us two distinguished guests to discuss the important topic of Jerusalem. We have with us Ms. Jacqueline Harounian, who is the past president of the Yashar Hadassah chapter of the Lawyers and Judges, and is the co-chair of Hadassah's National Attorneys Council. She's also on the advisory board of JCRC Long Island and has leadership roles in J-Inspire and the Jewish Women's Renaissance Project, and many other important roles. I suggest you look at the evening description, but it's really an honor to have you here with us today. Thank you. We also have the Deputy of the Consul General of Israel in New York, Israel Nitzan. He is the, like I said, Deputy Consul General of Israel in New York, and had quite exciting diplomatic positions. He was in Cairo when there was the 2010-2011 Egyptian revolution, so he was stationed at a pretty high-risk area, and he also was the director of the Foreign Ministry's United Nations Political Affairs Department, and he oversaw, which is even more high risk than being in Cairo during a revolution. And so he oversaw Israeli policies and actions within the UN, so it's very exciting to have you here today. Thank you for coming. I know we had a very long day, so thank you for being here with us. The topic we're discussing today is the connection between Judaism and Jerusalem. And it's interesting because Jerusalem is mentioned more than 700 times in the Bible. And so usually when you're looking for sources, you have to scramble to find sources about a topic. But here you really need to narrow down from 700 to whatever it is that we can cover now. Another thing that I found interesting in preparing the sources for this evening, I know it's going to sound a bit, I guess, cheesy, for lack of a better term, but it's hard to prepare these sources, I noticed, without having tears in my eyes, because they're such moving verses, and they're verses that really were on the lips of Jews throughout so many generations, and so very, very powerful. So the first source about Jerusalem is actually, before it's even named Jerusalem, it says that Abraham goes to visit Melchizedek Melech Shalem. Melchizedek Melech Shalem, he's the king of a city called Shalem, and that indeed was the city of Jerusalem, Salem. And it says that Melchizedek is Kohen Le'el Elyon. He is the priest who serves the supreme God, meaning Jerusalem was a city dedicated to God even before Judaism became an official religion. Jerusalem was already there as a city representing monotheism and dedication to God. So that connection to Jerusalem is there, predating the Jewish people. The Jews had a tabernacle in the desert which traveled with them from place to place. That was their holy place. And the verse says in Deuteronomy, you can bring your sacrifices in various places. Hilo batem ad ata el hamenucha ve'el hanachala. You have not come yet to the place where you will rest and stay forever. And the Talmud says, Tanu Rabbanan, that's source 2. I'm sorry they're not in English, but I'll translate. Hilo batem ad ata el hamenucha ve'el hanachala. Menucha zu Shilo. Nachala is Yerushalayim. Nachala is Yerushalayim, and the rabbis say that once the resting place of the tabernacle and the temple is in Jerusalem, there is no relocation. it is Jerusalem forever and ever, and there's no way of moving around. Even though the tabernacle had a way of moving around, once you've come to Jerusalem, the rabbis learned from the verses in the Bible, there's no moving around. And there's a fascinating halachic discussion from the perspective of Jewish law. Why is it that in some places, with regard to the laws of agriculture in Israel, for example, taking types from fruit and vegetables, we say that some places, once the Jews were expelled from there, they no longer have the sanctity that they used to have, while Jerusalem, even when not one Jew is living in it, has its full sanctity. So Maimonides says, why is it that I say that in the temple and Jerusalem, their holiness never leaves them? With regard to other places, sometimes you can say that the restrictive rulings that govern them, meaning the laws that give them holiness, can shift. The holiness of the temple and Jerusalem, they are holy not because of anyone living there or not. They are holy because they are dwelling places for God's presence on earth. God's presence cannot ever be canceled. And just as God's presence does not take a time out or stop, so too the sanctity of the city of Jerusalem is never removed. So whether the Jews are living there or not, Jerusalem is always a place that's sacred to the Jewish people. Fast forward to source 4 is from Isaiah, and it's a really moving verse which is read and brings people to tears. Leman Zion lo echeshe uleman Yerushalayim lo eshkot. For the sake of Zion I will not remain silent, and for Jerusalem I will not stop. Ad yeitzeh kanoga tzivka v'yishuata kelapid. Until its justice and salvation will burn like a torch, I will not stop seeking out Jerusalem. And then the very famous verse, Al chomotayich Yerushalayim hifkadeti shomrim kol hayom v'chol halayla. I put guards on your walls, Jerusalem, all day and all night. And it says, Al dami lachem, do not stop. Meaning the prophet is urging the Jews that no matter what happens, they should always look out for Jerusalem and always seek out its good. Val titnu dami lo, do not stop mentioning, do not keep silent about Jerusalem. Ad yechonen v'ad yasim et Yerushalayim tehila ba'aretz. Do not remain silent until Jerusalem is reestablished with its ancient glory. And the next verse is inspiring and fascinating, but it also has a significant archaeological meaning. Has anyone ever been to the Robinson Arch in Jerusalem? So if you go outside, the walls of the old city, or actually inside the walls of the old city, but right south of the western wall, there's the remains of an arch that led up to the Temple Mount. And up in the middle of the arch, there are, you can look this up online, there are words carved into the wall. And archaeologists date these words, and they date them to about 100 years or 200 years till after the destruction of the Second Temple. And they date it to a time where Jews were not allowed to enter Jerusalem. So you can imagine the great risk someone put their life in to go and carve these words into the stone in the walls of destroyed Jerusalem. And one of the verses that he writes is from this chapter in source 5. Simchu et Yerushalayim v'gilu ba kol ohavea, sisu otam asos kol mitablim alea. Rejoice with Jerusalem, even those who are mourning it. Meaning, even if you're mourning for Jerusalem, keep it in mind even during joyous occasions. And then God says, I'm going to rebuild it. I'm skipping a bit to verse 13. Just like a child who's comforted by its mother, so too I will comfort you. And you will be comforted through the rebuilding of Jerusalem. And then verse 14 here is the one that's carved on the wall in Jerusalem. you will see the rebuilding of Jerusalem, and your hearts will be full of joy, and your bones will be like grass, meaning you'll flourish and be very happy. So these verses are very powerful, but there's also the archaeological context where Jews, even when they were forbidden to enter Jerusalem and they were risking themselves by entering, made sure that they go in and that they put these verses in. Now there's a verse that is close to the work, if you worked at the UN, which is the case with you. So there's a verse that's very famous outside of the United Nations. And has anyone ever seen it? The verse, they shall turn their plows, they should turn their swords into plows. Yeah?
Yes, across the street.
Across the street from the United Nations. Well, it's important to take that verse in context. Where does that verse, where is that written? In Surah 6 from the book of Micah. One day, the house of God will be built at the top of the mountains, and nations are going to go to it, and many nations are going to go. And then the famous verse, Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, udvar Hashem Yerushalayim. And then it goes on, V'chitetu charvoteim le'itim, v'chanitoteim le'mazmerot, they'll turn their swords into plows, lo yisagoy el goy cherev, they shall not learn war anymore, and they shall sit each under his grapevine and under his fig. So this verse that has changed the world and really introduced for the first time in world history the idea that peace is an ideal and that war is not a good thing, that comes together with Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, that the Jews are going to live in Jerusalem, and it's from there that the word of God is going to come. Another verse is from the book of Psalms, chapter 123. Omdot hayu ragleinu b'sharayich Yerushalayim, Yerushalayim habnuya ki'ir shechubra la yachdav. Jerusalem is a city that's built and it brings things together, and that is why Jews, no matter where they are, always turn in prayer to Jerusalem. Part of it is because that's our holy place, but another part, which is mentioned in the Talmud, is just so we're united around one thing. So Jerusalem has that unique role of bringing people together. Source 9 is also a very moving source. Amar Rabbi Yochanan said, Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God said, Lo avo b'Yerushalayim shel mala, I will not come to Jerusalem in the heaven, ad she'avo b'Yerushalayim shel mata, until I rebuild Jerusalem that's in the earth. Meaning to say that there is a spiritual perfection that is the world can achieve, but that spiritual perfection is only going to come through the rebuilding of the physical Jerusalem. And finally, I'll conclude with 11, which is really a heartbreaking, literally a heartbreaking source. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it records a imagined conversation between God and the Jewish people. Lo nishbar libam shel Yisrael ela bishvil shecharva Yerushalayim. God said to the Jewish people, your heart was not broken for any other reason other than the fact that Jerusalem was destroyed. Shenemar al zeh hayad avel libeinu. And God says, ultimately, I will heal you. So it's a moving thing to be able to see today, after so many years, such verses such as Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, to see that every single Jewish kid who's excited about Jewish learning says, you know what, I think I'm going to spend a year in Israel. Jewish kids who want to be affiliated with their Judaism and proud of who they are say, you know what, I think I'm going to make a birthright trip. To see that Jerusalem is no longer just the place that we pray to, but it's the actual source of Jewish pride, Jewish identity, and Jewish education. The number of Jewish students in Jerusalem, the fact that leaders from all over the world come to Jerusalem again, if you think about it from a historical perspective, is unfathomable. When leaders from China, United States, the greatest countries in the world come to that region, if you told them that they would be skipping places like Turkey with 80 million people, Iran with also 80, 90, Egypt, where are they going? They're going to the city of Jerusalem. It's just, if you look at it at any level, educationally, technologically, historically, spiritually, the fact that Jerusalem has come to back to its glory in such an amazing way is something that is both spiritually unbelievable and also physically and historically. So thank you so much for listening, and without further ado, I'm going to pass it on to Ms. Harounian, who has a lot to share on this topic.
For a complete change of pace, because I don't speak Hebrew and I'm not really very well versed in the Torah. I first want to say thank you very much, Rabbi, for inviting me here. This is an unexpected opportunity, and I really appreciate it. And I want to thank my new friend Israel Nitzan, who I've seen a couple of times over the past week or two, and thank him also for the opportunity to address all of you and to be part of such an esteemed panel. So my name is Jacqueline Harounian. I'm from Great Neck. Has anyone heard of Great Neck? Okay. So not far from here, and I live in Great Neck with my husband and 4 children, and I'm part of a Persian Jewish community. I'm not sure if any of you have heard about it or familiar with it, but I was born here in the United States. My parents were immigrants from Iran to the United States, and they came very early, separately, around 1960. So well before the revolution, well before any real urgent need to come, they came for education and economic opportunity. And since the time I was born, my 2 sisters and I, it seems like Iran has been in the news continuously since I was born, and Israel is always in the news. And it's very much part of a identity that I have that's American and Jewish and also Middle Eastern, and it's a very complicated identity, but one that I fully embrace and enjoy and appreciate. I appreciate what the rabbi said about Jerusalem being a place of learning for young people. My own daughter, Delilah, is 19. She's on a birthright trip and is spending the entire summer in Israel with an internship opportunity that she has. And I consider Jerusalem and Israel such a special place for my family, for my children, because we do spend a lot of time there. We travel there frequently, and my children really consider it very much a place that's their homeland and that place they want to return to. And of course, I encourage it. Last week, my daughter, on the first or second day of her trip, that was the day that there was stabbings at the Kotel, and right away she WhatsApped us about it, and everyone was very upset about it, and they had to actually defer the trip to the Kotel and go another day. And it's just a reminder of how volatile the region is, how important it is, and that notwithstanding any worry or anxiety, I still would never think twice about my children going there, and of course it's very safe overall. But still, always in the news. Israel is always in the news. And of course, like the rabbi said, having peace is an ideal. And so, as many of you might suspect, being a Middle Eastern Jewish person, Zionism is incredibly important to my community. I can say, by and large, for Middle Eastern Jews, Syrian, Iranian, Egyptian, there are many of us. By and large, most of us are Zionists. We really appreciate and understand the importance of Israel, the importance of having a Jewish state, a place to go to, and many Persian Jews went to Israel and stayed there, and many of them thereafter came to the United States or went to other places, and it was a place of refuge after living in a Muslim country that was very, very, had a very complex history with the Jewish community. At times was very good to the Jews, and at other times was very, very harsh, and a lot of discrimination, and there's a lot of concern about the Jewish community that still remains there, and there is still a community there. I wanted to just briefly go through some of the organizations that I'm involved with that really speak to me, that I think are a very important part of my own identity as a mom, as a Jewish woman, and the most important probably is the Hadassah role that I had previously as a president of a Jewish women's and lawyers and judges chapter, which is a unique Hadassah chapter. Many people have never heard about it, but in the entire world world of Hadassah, which we know is a very important international organization with a very important mission, there is one chapter that's for lawyers and judges, and I was very honored to serve as the president a couple of years ago for this very unique chapter, and a lot of it was to raise awareness about Israel, about all of the medical advances at Hadassah Hospital, about all of the good that it does, not just for Jewish people, but also all of the people of Israel, which of course include Arabs and Christians and Baha'is, and the brilliant work of the doctors that are not just Jewish, but from all different backgrounds and faiths. And I consider it a very important role to bring awareness to that, to Jewish women, lawyers and judges that are, most of them were very secular and not really very familiar with Jewish practice or what is going on in Israel. And there's a lot of misinformation out there about what is exactly going on in Israel. So that was a very important role. Another important organization that I'm involved with is JCRC of Long Island, which was mentioned. That's how I met Mr. Nitzan. And I'm currently on the board of the Long Island chapter. And one of the things I really love about it is that the board has a very diverse group of people, men and women, different levels of observance, left-leaning, right-leaning, in the middle. And we come together to really, again, bring education and awareness to communities all over Long Island, from all different backgrounds and faiths. And it's to build bridges and increase dialogue and really address issues of common concern, which is anti-Semitism, hate speech, racism, things of common concern to minorities. And I think it's very important work, and I'm very happy to be part of it. And finally, another organization that I'm involved with is UJA, which is another very mainstream organization in the United States, does tremendous work in the United States and also in Israel. And one of the things that UJA is doing that I'm very involved with is helping victims of domestic violence in the Jewish community. Domestic violence is a very stigmatized issue, I would say, especially in the Jewish community. It tends to stay very hidden. And UJA is doing a lot of good work to bring resources to women that have unique needs in the Orthodox Jewish community and other Jewish communities. This is something also that I think is wonderful about Jewish organizations that serve not only Jews, but also try to build bridges with other communities in need, and UJA definitely does that too. So I guess I'd be happy to answer questions at the end. I know I covered a lot of ground, but again, thank you, and I guess it's Mr. Nitzan's turn to come up and speak.
Thank you very much. You mentioned Hadassah, your very impressive role in actually engaging with leadership activity with different Jewish organizations here. And I thank you also for actually hosting my visit to Nassau County. Great that only 2 weeks ago, I think. Time flies, and I'm very proud. Well, I was very happy to hear and very proud to say that you are. So thank you very much. This is my first visit to this synagogue. It's a beautiful, beautiful place, historic synagogue, and it's a great pleasure to actually being here together today with you. Your title is Jerusalem at the heart of the Jewish people. I think that I would like to speak about Jerusalem at the heart of our, should I call it national existence in the land of Israel, which is basically today the state of Israel. We also connecting to what you said about Jerusalem bringing people together. And I think that this is what Jerusalem is all about. Also for us. So this week, of course, in Israel, we celebrated as we say, this is the youngest Israeli national holiday. basically commemorates the reunification of Jerusalem and the establishment of Israeli control over the old city. Jerusalem Day, or Yom Yerushalayim if you speak Hebrew. Jerusalem, well, Zion was, is, and will always be the heart of Judaism and the heart of Jews. Jews never left Jerusalem physically and spiritually and emotionally. But Jerusalem is also at the heart of our, again, our national existence. And this modern form of the State of Israel is not the first one. We, in the land of Israel, in Eretz Israel. When we lost Jerusalem twice in history, we also lost our independence. We also lost our freedom. And I think that this is what, if you want, we also lost our sovereignty. At least twice in history, when Jerusalem was actually at the heart of the Jewish sovereignty over the land of Israel, it was lost when we lost Jerusalem. So for 2,000 years, we continued to dream about Jerusalem, to pray to Jerusalem. Some people were lucky to be able to climb to Jerusalem and to visit the city, to live in the city. And Jerusalem is yes, at the heart of Judaism. It is also the past, present, and future of our bond to this, with this land, the land of Israel. If you want, during Passover, let us say we read the Haggadah, the story of the great exodus from Jerusalem, from slavery to freedom. It ends actually at the arrival to the promised land, to Eretz Israel. But it also ends with a statement and a commitment, which is the Shana Haba Yerushalayim, for next year in Jerusalem. And this is a commitment that every Jew has been making, actually, since for many, many years. It is a commitment, again, it is a commitment that is linked and connected to the essence of our presence. Again, as an Israeli in the land of Israel, and eventually the modern return to Israel, to the state of Israel. The founders of the state of Israel also knew that this is the key and this is the essence of everything. And in 1948, David Ben-Gurion, again, insisted on actually allocating the troops and the resources to actually open the route leading to Jerusalem, eventually guaranteeing Israeli control over the western part of the city, despite the professional opinions of his generals, as if we may call them generals, in 1948. But his army officers, he was a civilian, he was not, he had no serious military experience, but he insisted, and because he had this historic perspective, he knew very well that without Jerusalem, there is no reason for our, again, national existence as an independent state in Israel. And if we go back even to our national anthem, Hatikva, the hope, it ends with, I have the translation here, our hope is not yet lost. It is 2,000 years old. To be a free people in our land, the land of Zion and Jerusalem. Jerusalem is the last word in our hope. So, if I take it also to my personal experience, our days, unfortunately, our enemies also know very well that this is actually by disconnecting this very strong link between us and Jerusalem, they basically try to undermine our right to exist and the legitimacy of our existence. As the director of the UN Department and Foreign Ministry and during my 4-year term at the UN, I had to fight several times against a systematic campaign and an effort led by our neighbors to rewrite history. And again, it is linked to, if we call it, if it is indeed UNESCO or the General Assembly, different resolutions using only the term Al-Haram Sharif, deleting the term the Temple Mount. By doing this is not a coincidence. And again, it is not something that, from my point of view, is linked in the UN. It is not linked against a religion. It is not linked against. It is not a campaign against Jews around the world. It is specifically linked to our existence, to our right to this piece of land, to our existence and the legitimacy of our existence as the state of Israel. The same happened, by the way, this week. This weekend, we celebrated Yom Yerushalayim. We know that there is another Yom Yerushalayim, the Iranian one. It's called Yom al-Quds, or Quds Day. Basically celebrated by not celebrated, by, it was an initiative, it is an Iranian initiative, celebrated or marked in Iran, in different places, where they burn the flags of Israel as well as the flags of the United States. It is also marked around the region, among Shiite communities, but not only Shiite communities. And again, the whole idea is the annihilation of the state of Israel by linking it to the Iranian commitment to so-called liberate Jerusalem. Again, this link of Jerusalem, the existence of Jerusalem, the Jewish connection to Jerusalem is the basis of our existence as the state of Israel. And this is something that also our enemies try to undermine. So, but of course they will not do it. And Jerusalem today is the essence of the story of Israel. It is the guiding idea of Zionism today. It is the story, if you want, of the past, history, heritage. It is the story of the future of Israel, innovation, technology, science. And we continue to build Jerusalem and to develop it. We're concerned and we work for its future, developing it into a prosperous city that can actually, again, connect between the spirituality in Judaism and science and technology. And I think that, again, this is what Israel is all about. We cannot ignore also the fact that the United States, a year ago, moved the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem, recognizing, again, the basic truth that Jerusalem is the capital of the state of Israel. Since then, several additional representations from Latin America and other offices from European countries have also moved to Jerusalem. This is a major step, but at the same time, this is the most obvious thing. And I think that this is, I think that we all share this effort to strengthen again Jerusalem as the eternal capital of the state of Israel, as the eternal capital of the Jewish people. And this is again the essence of our existence as the state of Israel, the national homeland of the Jewish people, the Jewish and democratic state. And indeed, you know, if I quote again from our national anthem, again, it is, our hope is not yet lost. It is 2,000 years old to be a free people in our land, the land of Jerusalem, the land of Zion and Jerusalem. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I'm happy to answer questions.
Anyone have a question? Just please address it.
You mentioned the United Jewish appeals.
Sorry, we can't hear.
She mentioned the United Jewish appeals. I have friends who were concerned
United Jewish Appeal, what they do exactly? United Jewish Appeal is a Jewish organization, but they help everybody. They have a lot of things that they do to eradicate poverty. They have food pantries. They have a lot of mental health services, and they have a lot of offices in Manhattan, and plus a lot of other areas in the New York area.
But what I heard was that organization took, without consent, the rabbi's picture and put out a call for donations that they took money from, and I'm just concerned about that. You heard anything?
I don't know anything about that specifically. I know that UJA takes in donations from lots of different places and aggregates them and puts it back out in the community and does things for lots of different groups. But beyond that, I really don't know more than that. But the services they... Okay. Any other questions?
Consul Nitzan, just wondering, from internal political point of view in Israel, is there like a national policy for the development of Jerusalem, or is it just the municipality that's in charge of it?
No, there is a ministry for Jerusalem, for the development of Jerusalem. They work together with of course, they work together with the municipality. I don't know when was your last visit to Jerusalem, but there was an amazing push for, and actually the entrance, right? The entrance to the city is going to be a high-tech center. So there is a work of the government through the ministry. Minister Elkin is responsible for Jerusalem. So he's overseeing the whole policy related to Jerusalem. The municipality is responsible for the city itself, for the development of the city. But I think that the ministry is responsible for allocating the resources, the money, the budgets, and other policies. Again, it's much more than just let's say just another city. So they're responsible for the overall policy.
And you mentioned also the volunteers that go over, not just the Jewish schools like mine too, in the first place, but you mentioned that they go over and they contribute to farms, to the fields, and even to security. My Pincus is, Odette Pincus is my son-in-law.
I
And
guess,
his father was in Panonium, which is a volunteer organization that services all some of the requirements for building of Jerusalem.
can I just interject? I don't know if everyone here knows this, but I was born in Jerusalem. I had the privilege of growing up in Jerusalem in a neighborhood called Harno. And basically what happened was they carved they carved into the mountain and built a new neighborhood. And I guess now asking as a Yerushalmi, as someone from Jerusalem, the question that I'm always wondering about, I see a lot of the building there, but when is the next big build in Jerusalem? Because I know a lot of young people are looking to move there and to buy there, and I know a lot of people also from New York too. And so does Israel have a policy of expansion? Is there something coming up? Meaning, when's the next big neighborhood in Jerusalem?
Honestly, I don't know, but I think that first of all, the policy is to strengthen the capital of Israel, and I think that the idea, the strategic idea of the municipality as well as the government is to strengthen Jerusalem, especially by actually in recent years expanding and widening the roads leading to Jerusalem to make the travel much easier, opening this railway line from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, which should be, well, it's operating, but it should last, the trip from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem should be not more than 30 minutes long, and the development actually, again, of this high-tech and innovative center right at the entrance to the city should actually attract a lot of business opportunities as well as a lot of young people to the city. So I think that this is the first stage of actually expanding, and again, it's not a matter of expanding; it's strengthening the city.
And I heard there's a plan now to connect Mozart or what's the Vaseret Zion. They're planning on. So does that mean that they're looking to take parts like?
It's still under discussion. I'm not sure that the people of Vaseret want to. They want to have their own separate, let's say, community, and but it's under discussion. It's not yet solved.
Got it. But there is hope for young people in Jerusalem who are looking to stay there. There is hope. There's places to be happy.
Of course.
All right, Neil.
So the heart of Jerusalem is the Temple Mount. And the Temple Mount's been in the news a lot with construction, illegal construction and mosques. And, do you feel things are improving or not improving in dealing with Jewish sovereignty over that area? Or do you feel it's just something that we need to kind of step back and work out diplomatically?
The government is committed to a policy of status quo, but there are elements who are pushing politically. There were some riots this week, again initiated by in Israel it's the Islamic movement, which is, let's say, it's a branch of the Muslim Brotherhood, if we may call it. So they have the interest of actually causing difficulties, igniting the tension, but our interest is actually to tone things down, to keep things stable, and again, I think that the sovereignty is unquestionable in this area. I'm not saying that things are easy. I'm not saying that things can be solved soon, but I think that the Israeli police is acting very decisively against any attempt to change the situation on the Temple Mount.
Yeah, question for the Consul here. Are there any new policies being implemented to facilitate some of the obstacles from Jewish acquisition of land in East Jerusalem or development of lands that they have been able to acquire?
Any new policies?
Meaning to allow more people to buy, Jews to buy in East Jerusalem.
I think that again, the government has its policy. The government is not new. Basically, the government is pursuing the same policy for more than a decade now. So this is the policy that there is. Of course, the idea is to strengthen Jerusalem. The idea is to strengthen our sovereignty over the city, and the idea is to strengthen the Jewish presence and the Jewish life.
So what new policies are being implemented to do? What new policies are being implemented to do that strengthening?
I cannot share right now. Honestly, I don't know about any specific new policies, but I can tell you that the policies that has been taken for granted. Yes.
If I could just mention, I know that Israel now has been working hard on connecting the light rail to the Hebrew University on Mount Scopus, which will be a huge difference because you can be a student living in Givat Shaul or wherever it is in West Jerusalem, hop on the light rail and go to the Mount Scopus, to whatever school you're at, medical school, law school, whatever it is. And so I think those things are bringing together West Jerusalem and East Jerusalem and building a stronger presence. Neil?
I just have a comment on the question. So Rabbi, you're a Jerusalem American.
Yes.
Our ambassadors lived all over the world. Jacqueline is an Iranian and there was a small one, but significant one in Times Square on Friday. So, the world is a strange place because everybody is on the move. We're on the move. We're coming from Israel and Iran. And also our opponents are on the move. You know, they're also moving to the west. So that's just a comment I have. It's not really a question.
Well, thank you everyone for coming. Thank you so much to Ramano Rap for hosting. Very much appreciated. Next year in Jerusalem. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Very much appreciated. Thank you. All right. You came, did you come in from
I did, yeah, no, actually, I was here this afternoon, so that's my stay.
Oh, okay. Let's say, never mind your Israeli citizenship, if you're just an American who wants to buy an East Jerusalem, it's not a free